to access and watch. In-person public participation will be taking place tonight in accordance with the Chelmsford School Committee Public Participation Policy. Anyone speaking tonight during the public input portion of the meeting is notified the superintendent's office with a desire to speak and has been provided with these guidelines. Upon request, written comments received no later than 12 p.m. on the day of this meeting will also be read and made part of the record of the meeting during the second public comment session. So, welcome to this meeting of the Chelmsford School Committee. Our first order of business is to approve our minutes from our meeting on June 4th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from June 4th.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any corrections to the minutes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes, you go ahead.
Aye.
All right. Let's see. We have no student reps. Any good news?
So good news, we closed out the school year.
Yeah.
Incident-free, it was great, and everybody's on summer vacation, and we're planning right now for the next school year.
All right. Anybody else? I just had one. I learned from an inside source, and it just came out, I guess, tonight too on Facebook, that our former school committee member, Donna Newcomb, was recently honored as a Commonwealth Heroine Award at the State House for all the work she's been doing as a teacher, a coach, school committee member, community activist, everything else. So I just wanted to say congratulations to Donna for a well-deserved honor. And
If I could add, I know she's watching this right now because she's definitely watching every meeting. She can come by anytime, come to any meeting, sit in the audience, say hi. I know you're watching, Donna.
I figured if she was watching, we'd get a text pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. We'll see.
All right. Anybody else good news? Okay, we're in our first public comment session, but I don't see anybody here, so I
No,
think
we don't
can
have
move on
anyone
to new
registered
business.
tonight. Yes, so we're going to jump, we don't have any public comments tonight, so we're just going to jump right into new business. And Robin Adams from our community education program over at the Westland Schools is going to talk a little bit about some of the community ed programming. And it's timely with the season and summer coming up. This is a big point of emphasis for them, so I'll turn it over to Robin, hear a little bit about your programming.
Great, thank you for having me. I apologize I couldn't come last meeting. I appreciate you moving me to this one. So we're at a very exciting time. We're starting our summer programs, and we're just going to quickly go through everything we do through the school year, and I'll get into more detail about each of the programs as I go through. So for those who don't know, Chelmsford Community Education, we have full-day childcare, which is Alliance Pride and Alliance Pride North. Alliance Pride North is at the high school. They're both full-day programs. At Alliance Pride, we have 18 months through age 5. At Alliance Pride North, it's 3- and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. We do all the same curriculum that the public schools do, so they're ready for kindergarten when they go in. We have summer full-day program of Summer Fest and Quest. Summer Fest is our more traditional program for the elementary children, ages kindergarten through, or first grade through 6th grade. We do rotating stations where they go to the STEM room, the art room, outdoor rec. We go on a weekly field trip. It's more of a camp feeling, whereas Summer Quest is a program for teenage students, our middle school students who come to that, and they go on a field trip every day. So they'll be in Boston on Monday, they'll be at Canopy Tuesday, and that was designed a few years ago and has been a big hit. Both of those programs have already enrolled for the year and are completely filled. We have summer enrichment classes for children that offer little mini programs for 2 to 3 hours for parents maybe who are staying at home with their children and wanted to come over. Those are still enrolling. Adult ed classes and trips run year-round. And then extended day, and that's a big program we're going to talk about first. So extended day is held at all of the elementary schools and Parker Middle School. We have about 400 to 500 students per year. It is before school care, after school care, as well as vacation weeks. We have a variety of activities for the kids to do. They can come after school, work on their homework. They can do a little organized activities, some arts and crafts, a few science projects. In the picture, you see Ozzy came to visit us. Next year, we're going to be offering yoga once a month at each of the sites. And it's really a place where kids can go until their parents get out of work. We will be opening that in about 2 weeks, so that's the hot news for anybody watching. That program fills up very, very quickly, and we do have a cap at each site just based on staffing. And here's just some examples from this year. So South Row Extended Day, they do a lot of projects giving back to the community. So one of the projects this year was they wanted to honor the seniors at one of the senior center. So they did May baskets for those of us who are old enough to have heard about them, or maybe our parents or grandparents told us about them, but they're just a little thing that you hang flowers on somebody's door on a day in May, and the kids hadn't heard about them, so it was a fun lesson talking about it, and a lot of nostalgia. And one of the residents is the mother of our staff member, so she was willing to take a picture with her May basket, and from what we heard, it was the hit of the senior center. The Give Club has come a few times, so I wanted to talk about them as well as some of the other high school students that have helped us. They come and offer to do projects with the children. They reached out to us, and every year, the past 2 years, we've had high school volunteers that reach out and want to come to our site. So they went to Harrington, South Row, Center, and Byham this year, and they organize the projects. They come with a curriculum. We get the materials for them, and they are a big hit. The children love having somebody different to work with and interact with. So that's a project they did at Center School. Today, you'll see on our social media that the high school students came and helped us from the Give Club and a couple other clubs and sports to do all of our moving. When we have Summerfest, we have to move all of our preschool furniture out. So it's a full day, and we had about 30 high school young people, not children, who come and volunteer their time, and they move all of our stuff and put it in storage, and at the end of the summer, they come back and do it, and they're huge for us. So we thank the high schoolers. Lions Pride, which I briefly talked about, is our childcare program that is booked for next year. So we have 62 participants daily, and that's 18 months through age 5, going into kindergarten. We have a STEM room, we have a preschool, toddler play space. The playground over there, for anybody who hasn't been there, has been redesigned the past few years, so it's all appropriate for ages 5 and under, which is fantastic that we share with CHIPS. Oh, okay. And here's just some adorable pictures. Again, even with our youngest students, we do academics. May not look like academics from what some of you are used to, but that's our hands-on science, and these are our toddler one. So they come in the fall, and we do pumpkin patch. That's our youngest kids.
You really have the best job. Go ahead.
We do, I agree. Lions Pride North is for students ages 3 to 5, and that's at the high school that we work with the high school program for the children, the high schoolers who are exploring early childhood, and they'll come over and work with our students. They have their own traditions they've been doing for years before I was even in the program. They have a teddy bear picnic, they have a field day, and these are some of the pictures of that. And what's really nice is they get to really know the high schoolers. There's a theme day that the high school students plan and come over and implement. They give them each a shirt. They find out what the students like, and at the end of the year, they'll make them a Winnie the Pooh shirt or Sesame Street, whatever characters the kids are into. So they get a personalized shirt from the kids. And that's been a fantastic addition to our program in the past 2 years. Summer Quest, I again talked about that. That's full for this year as well. We have 40 students a day, and we travel all over the state and a couple out of state, which you guys approved, thank you very much, where we go up to New Hampshire. And it's really designed for students to have more of an independence, that they're not walking around in a camp with, a teacher and 10 children, 10 students. They have the ability to go independently if their parents approve it and check back in every hour. So at Canopy, they can go in little areas and come check back with us, and they really enjoy it. We found it's a big hit for the students who maybe don't want to go walk around with their parents as much anymore. So it's a good time that they have a great summer and build independence. And then on Friday, we always do a community service field trip. And that can be, we've done some with Steve Callahan, who does our playgrounds. They'll go and help spread mulch. They go to the open spaces and work with Phil Stanway and do gardening, do weeding, and anything within the town. So if there are people out there who are looking for ideas, reach out to us, because we do that every Friday. Summer Fest, that is the one I talked about a little bit. We have 130 students, grades 1 to 6. We do weekly field trips in the different interest areas. Again, STEM, art, outdoor rec, theater. We're also having some art and music instructors come in this year for a weekly theme as a specialist. And the high school, we're working with the high school to have some different sports teams come over and do a day of interest for each of the teams. So we already have rugby booked, and we're waiting for a few more to come in. We really want to give the kids who are with us, especially year-round, a different environment than Extended Day. So Summerfest is very different. It may be the same students, but we have different staff, different activities, so that they feel it's their summer and they're not just continuing their school year. Adult education. Hopefully you all get our catalog. We are reinventing that. We have a new designer, so it's going to look a little bit different this year. We increased about 12% this year. The team has worked really hard to bring in some new activities, so some things coming up are, my next slide, some new cooking classes. We're doing a quilting class for those t-shirt quilts that people do for their high school seniors where they cut up the t-shirts. That's going to be something offered. We have a new trip, new company that runs our trips, and that's been a big hit for a lot of the seniors in the area and some of the staff. So this year, some ones I just want to point out were the African and Greek cooking. Those are brand new. We're doing the quilt making, smartphone photography, line dancing, Pilates, introduction improv, and buyer's guide to real estate. So those are brand new, as well as some of our classics. We're going to have all of our cooking come back. Those fill up very quickly. And then summer classes, these are still enrolling. We do a variety of activities. We try and do 2-hour classes, 4-hour classes, up to 6-hour classes. Again, typically for parents who are home or might be doing full-day camps and just need a little bit of care. So these are holiday film production, Shark Tank Junior, Writing Wizards, yoga, musical theater, tennis, coding, the escape room, and art adventures. And again, just trying to make sure that we cover kids who are interested in science and art and all different interest levels. And looking ahead for us, we're going to be updating the cafeteria at Westland School. We painted it, the painting starting this week, and then we're going to be getting new furniture. The high school playground, we're going to improve that for the students over at Lions Pride North. Our hiring for extended day staff is going to be done much earlier. We actually are posting those jobs this week. So if anybody knows people that are college students that are looking for a part-time job, last year we did have to cap our extended day due to staffing. So we're trying to get out much sooner so we can bring in more students. And then adult ed is going to continue to expand their offerings for the community. And that is it.
Anybody
Any
have any
questions for me?
Just a comment, I've also had a child go through Lions Pride, I had one in each, and loved both programs, and the work you guys do is amazing. Summerfest is a huge hit with families everywhere.
Thank you.
Gotta stop sweating. We'll like, but thank you very much, and then all of those services and programs you put out there are really high quality, and the kids love it. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
My family takes advantage of a lot of things offered through community education. So I think, the offerings are wonderful. I'm curious, I know you mentioned that there's going to be, at least at first, a cap again for extended day. I know there's always more interest than there is space for the summer programs. Has there been consideration of the best way, or is there kind of a new way to think about doing enrollment that is a little bit less advantaging the person who has time to not be in a meeting at 10 a.m. and be logged in instantly? I have the advantage of working from home, so I never miss a sign up, but I know a lot of people who struggle to get their kids signed up for no fault of their own.
Yeah, we have talked about that. We're considering, we've reached out to some other directors that are in my community about doing a lottery possibly for next year. It's hard because every one of them has an advantage and a disadvantage because a lottery isn't always fair either. If your family's been with us for years, some people asked if they've already been in the program, should they have first rights? We really looked at a lot of it, and I'll, potentially bring, Jay and Linda some thoughts next year if we want to change it for next year, because we have had feedback. I do feel like our system's a lot better. We used to be all paper forms, and parents lined up outside the door at 5 in the morning. It was always the dads that got sent. The wives would send the dads to line up, always. So we're trying to make it better, and I do feel like our software is fast, except for the one year we had the glitch, which we don't speak of anymore. But if people are on there at the right time, they do get in as quickly as they get on there. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings about all of them, and I do feel it's unfortunate that we can't take every child in the district, but we don't have the capacity in any means, space, staff. But I'm open to feedback, so if people have suggestions, like I said, please let me know.
Now, these summer programs, are they all based out of Westlands, or are they based out of different schools, or?
They're primarily based out of Westlands. We have a few that run out of Byam, some of the sports programs that are vendors, so we have them at Byam so that there's a little more space on our fields for the students in Summerfest and Quest.
Okay.
But yes, the majority of them there. The Summer Quest students come in just for half an hour, they meet at Westlands, and then they go on a bus somewhere. But
And who's staffing? Is it high school kids? Are these
we have high school students, mostly college and adults.
Okay.
And we have it broken down that the high school students are never alone with the group. If they're working with us, they're supported by a college or an adult person.
Okay, great. All right, anybody have any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for coming and giving us all the information. Good luck with the summer stuff.
Thank you, Robin. All right, next up, we're going to transition to our Technology Director, Bill Silva. He has some tech updates for us. Have a good night. As the year comes to a wrap, talk a little bit about some of the stuff he has planned for the summer, And then this is also the time of the year where we start to work on updates to all of our different manuals, our staff handbooks, student handbooks, things like that, and he has a couple of recommendations for us. So whenever he is available, we'll turn it over to Bill.
So a very new setup, so give me a moment.
Did you get the badge here?
Yeah.
Really new.
No, we don't want that.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Good to see you all. I have I think, too many slides for you once again, and you had an awful lot of reading to do if you went through all the items that were in the packet for me, so my apologies for that. A few things we'll go through tonight. I'll give you a quick recap, sort of from last summer to present of some various items the technology department's worked on. A few project items, some that are in progress, some that were completed, some that are upcoming. And then I'll talk to you about a technology assessment that we had done this year. And we also ran a steering committee. And I have some items there that we'll need your votes on as far as acceptable use policies, things like that. Before I get into all of that, you know, I always like to take just a moment to thank my entire team. The ICTS department spans across not just technicians, but integration specialists, library staff, technology assistants who do teaching out in our schools. And every single member, they're just excellent to work with, and I'm very fortunate, and I just always like to put that out there first. The department really runs so well because of them. Very quickly, take you through some grant awards from this year. We were able to get a $15,000 grant from Lockheed Martin for our PLTW programming, $3,600 from 1-8, which was for applied learning for manufacturing and engineering. The innovations pathways, that's a DESE grant. So to the technology engineering area came $16,183, and those were the breakouts for where that money went. And then E-rate Category 1 funding, we receive a 40% reimbursement for all of our internet, firewall services, et cetera, and that is usually right in the vicinity of $50,000. One interesting thing from E-rate is they are going to pilot a new cybersecurity category. So that's going to open up soon, and we'll definitely be applying to be one of the pilot schools for that. Some of the pieces of PD that the Tech Integration Group worked on this year, they focused in on a few different applications. Screencastify was one of them. That's a really neat little program. Teachers can capture their screen, record everything for a student so they could watch things after a class, things like that. But it also has the ability to flip, and teachers can assign a quick assignment for students where students can record themselves as a response to either, a reading or just to even introduce themselves at back to school time. We piloted a new tool called Nearpod, which we'll be implementing next year. This group also created a graduate course for project-based learning, which I think is really important. We were doing a blended learning graduate course, which was really well received. And project-based learning really is the next logical step for our staff. There was all kinds of different projects that the TISs would go in, co-teach, do projects with classes across all the different buildings. And they also ran all the proctor trainings for MCAS. Tests that we sort of facilitated this year, of course, MCAS and Access. And also the AP and SAT are now all completely digital. So we were fortunate enough to take part in that testing as well. Everything went pretty smoothly, at least as far as MCAS and Access went. AP and SAT is a different testing platform. There were a couple of bumps with the College Board application, excuse me, and some of the devices that were being used to test on that we either were not ours or they were from out of district. A couple of bumps with that, but my tech staff did participate on Saturdays with SAT testing, and they did a great job with that. Last summer, we had the grade level realignment for Parker McCarthy, and we also were rebadging the entire district. So I just wanted to give a quick thank you to the tech staff for all the work that they did last summer, getting classrooms ready, moving all kinds of classroom technology, making sure the staff had everything that they needed when they returned. There was a lot of work behind the scenes with phones even being reassigned to people and all the E911 information being updated. And then we did rebadge the entire district. Everyone now has photos on their badges. Everyone, depending on role, is color-coded. This was a really big undertaking. On the bright side, if anyone needs a wedding photographer or holiday photographer, a couple of my guys are very, very proficient at photos now, so. Service requests, we fielded 9,833 tickets this year. Average response time was 7 hours, and the average request closure was 1.4 days. I don't know if you can make out that picture. It's sort of the best thing I could grab, but what you'll see here is typically the high school used to have one of the largest areas for ticket openings and closures in the district. McCarthy actually moved into first place this year. And I think a lot of that had to do with Chromebook sort of damages, repair, and things like that. So it was a little bit of a shift for us, but overall, the tech staff handled it really well. We have 2 dedicated high school technicians, and then I have 2 district-wide that operate out of this office and their service manager that oversees that pool. And of course, other folks get some of these requests too, but they do the main thrust. And it's really these 5 technicians that get out there and take care of an awful lot of these tickets. So I thank them for that. What's beautiful here is that most people are getting service the same day that they enter their request. We've done a lot of work in wiring closets this year. We've upgraded firmware on every switch. We have about 81 switches throughout the district. That all has to get done off hours so we don't take people down during the day. Our wireless system began an update today, and we have a few more to do throughout the course of the summer. And then these cleanups that we've done, if you look at the left-hand picture here, that's what a closet may have looked like. And then after the work was done to recable everything, that's what it looks like now. The benefit there is that if something happens in that particular closet, it's not taking an hour to triage where the wire runs to. And that's really how it should look. Things sort of get installed originally and it never gets updated, and then you add pieces and it can become a rat's nest quickly. But our network administrator did really nice work with that. We've moved through about 4 buildings so far, so there's plenty more of that to work on. A few more updates. Chromebooks, again, will deploy to grades 5 and 9, and this year we will also be refreshing the CHS teacher devices. We did the middle schools this year, and then the plan is for staff, we're going to try to refresh at the same rate that we do for students, which will be once every 4 years, and that should keep them with a relatively new device that is powerful and works well for their needs. This is actually going to be the 6th year of our one-to-one implementation, which is crazy to think about. I feel like we sort of just began that. Implemented a new neat little tool for ELL teachers called Pocket Talk. This has the ability to translate in all kinds of different languages to and from, and so you can have a conversation and everything's translated instantly on the fly. So those are pretty neat, and we'll see how that goes in those classrooms. And there's a lot that's happening in in that venue now, especially with all of the AI changes and updates. Our World Language Lab was completely refreshed, all the teacher machines, student machines, all completely redone. There are new projectors going in there. That room also has a 3 projector setup. It's pretty big, so folks can get a good view from anywhere in the room. And we also ran PD for the world language teachers, so they can take full advantage of all of the new hardware. The Harrington Elementary Library is getting redone, and this is a horrible picture. It's going to look much better than that, but this gives you an idea of what the space is going to sort of be laid out as. It's actually being painted right now. First coat's almost completely done. I was just over there a little while ago. But this is going to be a neat space. You'll see in the bottom corner there, like a comfy reading nook for our students. Everything's going to be mobile, much more modular. This will look a lot like what you've seen at the high school. And this is something obviously we'd like to continue through all the libraries over the next several years. Just keep updating those spaces. They're so important. Security, this is one area where I think we've grown tremendously over the last several years. So this summer, all panic buttons throughout the district will be activated. We have them in all the modular buildings, and every main office has multiple. These will give a direct alert to the police station if there's any kind of an emergency. The McCarthy is also getting a vestibule installed for being able to bring visitors into that building in a safer way. We are also adding visitor management to every single school next year. There will be a district-wide two-way radio system installed this summer. That's been a need for a little bit. So this is going to give buildings a much better communication methodology, not just to themselves, but they'll also be able to contact police department if they need to, and admins will be able to directly talk to each other when needed. And then a pilot that we're going to work on this year is a LED strobe and network-based speakers. And so Jason Marcoux, who works on most of our security items, he also does PA, phones, all kinds of different things. He's actually fabricating these boxes that you see on the right that have 4 different push buttons on them. In the left-hand picture is the LED strobe. This has the ability to light up in a number of different colors. And then an IP-based speaker, which we're going to have play a pre-recorded message. So we met with the Alice group and discussed how we wanted to implement these strobes and button presses, sorry. And what we had decided was we'll have something that initiates sort of the ALICE or options-based response protocol. That's like the big emergency protocol. There'll be one for evacuation, which will glow amber on the LED, one for a hold in place, which will glow blue on the LED, and then the green will bring the building back to normal operation. The pre-recorded messages will play. Alice Group wrote up what they'd like us to say, so we'll be recording those, and that's what will come out of the speakers. And the main thrust for the pilot of these will be to be put in areas where either the PA system sometimes isn't loud enough because if the room is full, for instance, the cafeteria full of students, gym full of students, maybe a performing arts center. These will light up. They'll play a very loud announcement, so everyone will know exactly what's happening at that time. Okay, on to the tech assessment. So we had Dr. Laurie Keating come in with the Integrity Group. And this group used to do really very large format tech assessments and blueprints. And they've sort of scaled a lot of that back. So they wanted to pilot a new rubric-based approach. So they offered to come in and do this at no cost. And I had worked with her before, so we said, certainly, let's give it a shot and see how we score. So they looked at 7 different focus areas. You could see here leadership, curriculum and instructional technology, access to technology, PD, tech support, network infrastructure, and data analytics. We scored really highly, basically in every single area. And there were a couple of places where they made a couple of recommendations for improvement. So these focus areas were a technology committee, a long-range tech plan, instructional focus, acceptable use policy, and data analytics. You can see the little rubric that I put up for you here on this screen. This is strictly the instructional focus one. And it's not like we scored badly in it, we were in developing. But of course, that's not good enough for Chelmsford. I want us to always be proficient or advanced in all of these areas. So when we take a look at what this says, basically it asks, how is technology impacting the teacher and the student? And developing is the teachers using this in a teacher-centric model where they're kind of just presenting information up on a board. And we would like to see them continue. Sometimes that is the best methodology, but we want them to be able to do other things when they integrate technology. And so you see in the proficient category, some assignments are done collaboratively or project-based. And that's why also the TIS group said, well, let's offer this graduate project-based learning course, and we can start to teach these skills to teachers and move ourselves up the sort of the instructional focus into the proficient or advanced area. The tech committee, I didn't really have a huge problem with this. A tech steering committee for me is something that you don't form every single year. These are things that you do maybe every 4 or 5 years. And the last one we had was just before we were going to implement one-to-one. We did an awful lot of work with that. It had been 5 years, so it was time to reconvene. The assessment happened to fall before the reconvening of this, unfortunately, but we did have the tech committee this year. Long-range tech plan, this is something that DESE used to require from every single district, and you had to have an approved DESE plan in order to get E-rate funding, but they did away with that an awful long time ago. Now, it's not like we're just kind of making things up willy-nilly on the fly. We have a plan, but maybe it was just never really committed to 100% on paper or really looked out 5 years. You might only be 2 or 3 years out. So we took the time to go ahead and plan out 5 years worth of technology goals and things that we want to focus in on. The acceptable use policy, I think this was a good pickup on their part. We sort of had policies in a number of different spots. And so what the steering committee worked on was taking all of these policies in various areas and sort of getting them all together in one comprehensive document, which will become the new overarching tech acceptable use policy for the district. And then data analytics, they flagged, which I didn't 100% agree with because we do have Panorama, and that's a really tremendous platform, but I feel like we're still in the early stages of implementation with that. As we use it more, as teachers interact with it more, I think that is the right platform for the district, and it does a really good job at showing teachers and administrators the data they need to see. So I listed it here because it was a focus area on their report, but I don't feel like it really is an item that we need to worry about at this time. Okay. So I kind of already gave all of these points while I talked on that last slide, but these were things that the steering committee got to work on. It was the long-range tech plan, all the acceptable use policies. We also talked a lot about AI, how we want to roll that out with staff first and then students at a later time. And then we updated the staff policy to have AI language in it, so that we're covered for that, and we can start to teach staff how to use it appropriately and and safely. The CHS addendum also had updates done to it, and that was mostly language-based in the addendum for AI, and basically it became like another form of cheating or plagiarism, so it ended up in their honor code section. The other thing in the CHS addendum that used to talk about the ability to have a bring your own device policy, the steering committee discussed that at length, and we've decided to do away with the bring your own device policy. One reason is we provide a device for every student in grades 5 through 12 that we manage, we maintain. We know that they're going to work the way that we want them to work. We know that their students are going to get to the resources that they need to get to and not get to the resources that they shouldn't get to. We've seen a lot with the BYOD where users can sort of load up anything that they want at home, and then that becomes applicable at school. And it can cause some problems where they can get the things that they shouldn't get to, or use applications that maybe a teacher doesn't want them using. So that, and that coupled with network security, things like that, we did vote to get rid of the BYOD, and so that is also added in the addendum. Okay. I can't believe it went that fast. That was pretty much the whole update. But I was moving. The pieces that I do need from the school committee are several different votes. We'll need a vote to accept the empowered digital use policy for students, the empowered digital use policy for staff, the updated CHS addendum, and then there is a new tiered Chromebook repair fee schedule, which is in the documentation. The way we had done that previously is we've never charged for labor for any repairs for students. We charge for parts, and we would charge the first time that there was a damage incident 50% of the cost of the parts. If you think back to the ticket page that I showed you, an awful lot of those tickets are damage devices. We probably spent out somewhere in the vicinity of $40,000 in parts alone this year. And we recuperated approximately $11,000 in damage fees. So what the steering committee talked about was going to a tiered system where it goes like 50, 100, 150, 200, and then full replacement cost, and doing away with the 50% discount on the first damage. And hopefully that will sort of curb a lot of the damage that we see, and maybe we won't have those kind of that number or volume of repairs moving forward.
I'm just wondering, anyone can ask any questions, but do you want to just like walk through, like in just broad terms, like the empowered digital use policy, like any big changes or what you've incorporated in that you want them to act on?
Yeah, the empowered digital use policy for students, that has taken what appeared in the handbook under the acceptable use for internet and email and merged it with what we already called the empowered digital use policy for student. That policy was built during the last steering committee when we were coming into the one-to-one, and it was really only applied to grade 5 to 12 students. This will now be every technology policy for acceptable use. It's all bundled into this, the use and care of devices, regardless of whether or not you're on the one-to-one. And another piece that came up in that assessment is that this should be something that parents or guardians sign off on a yearly basis. So we've come up with a way to deliver this to families, and they can digitally sign off on it, and we'll ask for that sign off every year. The empowered digital use policy for staff, the main changes to that was strictly in the venue of AI language about the do's and don'ts of using artificial intelligence and the importance of protecting both staff and student PII while using AI. The addendum we spoke to, I think you heard that, and then the tiered Chromebook component.
There's a lot of information here. Is it possible for us to vote on this, like next meeting, could pull this out, the specific policies that we're supposed to be approving, pull out the tiered repairs fee schedule, just so we can kind of like have it in isolation versus.
Could we ask some questions now, though? 'Cause
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I'm just saying, at this point, I don't know if I'd be ready to vote on it, but yeah, absolutely. You have some questions?
Yeah. I have a couple. So one is from pretty much all of the empowered digital use policies. It names some things that are unacceptable use by name, and other things it says anything else inappropriate to minors. It mentions things, that are obscene or pornographic, makes sense to include those explicitly. It mentions drug use and things like that. There's no mention specifically of things related to weapon use or violence, and I'm just curious if there was any consideration of inclusion of that as being something that would be specifically unacceptable. And I know there was stuff around bullying and stuff, but it doesn't explicitly call out exposure, for example, to like third-party violent images. And so, for example, it would be covered, somebody couldn't make a threat to someone, but there was nothing specifically forbidding a student from, say, sending graphic images of something violent happening to another student. So that was one question I have, or I guess I'm curious to hear if there was consideration of that.
So I think to your first point for weapons, so most of what's blocked for schools comes from SIPA. It's the Children's Internet Protection Act. Things like weapons, gambling, drugs, pornography, all of these things are just broad categories that are automatically blocked by SIPA. So I don't think that you need to specifically address them, and I feel like the weapons component and things like that fall under the all other things that would be inappropriate. But if you wanted your language, I mean, this is your policy at the end of the day, so if you wanted your language to mention very specific things, we certainly could. But I can tell you that those types of things just by the law have to be blocked.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure where I stand on it. I was curious. I could see the use of kind of graphic violent images being something that's worth specifically naming, but I could also see that being a slippery slope. For example, if students are researching images of difficult periods in history, wars, things like that, that there may be things that would be flagged as violent images or graphic images. So something to think about. The other question I have is when you look on the offenses for K-4, for students who first and second offense, and what the consequences or possible disciplinary actions, excuse me, would be. Under second offense, number 4, it mentions brief detention during recess or after school. I have no problem with it mentioning after school, but it is in our policy document to not take away recess time for children that young, since it's critical for their physical well-being and mental health. So I would suggest that we consider removing that specific mention of detention during recess as a potential consequence for a student. And lastly, I was curious about, this is more of just like a broad question. We have devices that presumably, because we no longer have BYOD, there's district devices. Do those district devices specifically have access to any of the popular AI tools that are currently out there?
For students right now, no. But as you know, new websites pop up every day, so.
Right.
But sometimes by the time the filter flags a site for, potentially having some component like that, like a math solving type of picture taking tool or something like that, it's possible that a student has seen it once, but typically the filter is pretty quick. Within every hour, it's getting updates, and those things are shut down pretty rapidly. But right now, students will not be able to explicitly use an AI tool like a ChatGPT or a Google Gemini or any of that type of stuff because the staff haven't even started touching this yet or received professional development on it. So we're not in a position where we're ready to have students start interacting.
Yeah, that was my question. Like, I could see both sides of that, like the benefits, in one of the things, I don't know if it was here or in your presentation, mentioning the potential appropriate use of AI. It's not going away anytime soon, and learning about it, balanced with the risks in terms of academic integrity and student safety and things like that. And
Right.
it's a tricky balance. It does seem like it's worth not including that for students' devices if the teachers haven't been educated yet themselves on the use of it.
I could tell you in our tech classes next year, there will be curriculum added to start teaching students about it and about ethical and safe use and things like that. They just won't be able to get to it yet. So we'll be doing the groundwork to prepare them to begin interacting.
Still very much the Wild West out there for AI use, so I can see being cautious. I think that was it for my most pressing questions. I'm curious if others have any.
Yeah, any other questions, John?
Yeah, so with the E-rate for the networking equipment coming, I'm sure there's going to be some kind of focus on that. I know I think the network was my first year here. It was, so 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
So with the E-rate, I think it makes a lot of sense for the cybersecurity side. So that's not just for firewalls, is that for the switching? Like, is it?
Yeah, so the cybersecurity component to that is going to be for things like endpoint protection, all of that type of stuff. And then they still will have Category 2, which covers network infrastructure and structured cabling.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing that. And just so you know, I know cleaning up the cables seems like, it's just a detail thing, but it actually lengthens the life of your equipment because of the airflow that's required for all that equipment. So when you leave it like that for a long time, your equipment actually dies really fast. So, but good work this year. Thank you. And congratulations to your son on his graduation.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Susan, any questions?
I don't really, I didn't read it all through thoroughly enough yet, so I definitely want to do that. My question really doesn't have to do with the paperwork, but it's something I've been wondering for a long time. What happens to the Chromebooks after the kids use them for their 4 years and turn them back in?
Yeah, they do turn them back in. So some will get repurposed down to elementaries and replace devices that maybe aren't up to snuff down there. Sometimes if we have students that have damaged too many times or have not paid the fee, they'll get issued one of the return devices. We do keep carts of them around, so when we were running SATs, we had those on hand for students who came from out of district who had trouble with their devices. So they do get repurposed until they no longer can take updates, and then they get recycled out.
So the reason I asked is the town community services coordinator is working in a program with NIMCOG on digital equity. And it had come up in a discussion about one of the issues with digital equity is people who, big piece of it is not having access to internet, but some is not having access to hardware either. And I didn't know if there was any way that you have things that are turned in, the school doesn't need them anymore, but there might be people in the community who could use them as opposed to having nothing, so.
Right. It's a tricky area because the taxpayers own the equipment. So I mean,
School uses it as much as until you kind of can't get anything else out of them.
right. So I mean, certainly worth further discussion and investigation because digital equity is certainly important.
Okay, two questions before we come back to policy. One is the vestibule at McCarthy, is that slated to get done this summer, or are you looking for fall?
No, I mean, the goal is to have it be completed this summer. There are a couple different stages. There's the exterior, like the front storefront windows, if you think about it like that, those being replaced. There's a special door going in on the kind of the far left side where we're creating the little entry area. So that all looks like it's in good shape. Then there's just the build out of the interior wall, and if all goes well, that'll happen towards the end of July, early August. So it will. A lot of these projects are going to be butting up right against the start of the school year. But no, the goal is to have that done. It was funded by the town in April,
right.
So the funding is available. It's just more of a coordination of project.
And then will that be staffed by a separate individual? How is that going to work?
Yes, so they have 3 individuals in the main office now, so one of the individuals will come out and staff the entryway.
Okay.
Whether it's a mixture during the day or the same person, I
Yeah.
truly don't know, but it'll be an existing staff member.
Right, and my other question is, how did you do getting your esports stuff going? Did you get it going, or?
Yeah, the esports has been a little bit rough. The company we were using were running matches sort of later in the day. It was like 5 p.m. type of matches. So it was difficult to have students stay until that kind of time. It was difficult to find coaching to come back at that time. So it has not taken off the way I expected it to, but that's not to say that it can't continue to grow. We will certainly continue to try to grow the program.
Great. All right, so just, sorry, John, go ahead.
Are you doing the policy next?
Oh, guys,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just really quickly, because Maria's not here, wanted to thank you for the work you're doing in ELL, the Pocket Talk thing. That sounds neat. And then the World Language Lab. So Maria's not here. I want to make sure she gets her. She's always about ELL. So thank you for that work as well.
Sure.
I was gonna say, I'm really excited, I just wanted to share a positive thing. I'm really excited and enthusiastic that you all are offering a project-based learning
Yeah.
course. It feels like that will also move the needle a little bit on that academic thing that those who came in to do the assessment picked up on, moving it toward more student-centered practices. And I love that the district is offering that internally because there's a lot of stuff out there, but not always as easily accessible.
Right, thank you.
So just getting back, so you have 2 empowered digital use policies. We have one on the books. It's very, very, very general. So I would like to be able to like pull out each of those, compare this. We'd have to, if we're gonna have 2 different policies, then assign them 2 different
Can I,
designations.
right, can I ask Bill one quick question? Go ahead, Bill, what were you gonna say?
I don't think that they're going to be 2 different policies
Okay.
at this point. You're going to have an empowered digital use policy for students, and there's one for staff, but we won't be utilizing 2 empowered digital use policies. It won't be the old one and the new one.
No, but if we're gonna change a policy, then we need to just make sure that it aligns correctly with the
And to
format.
compare it-
Exactly.
Vote on that today anyway.
No, that's why I want to make sure
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna do that. But anyway, so, you know what I'm saying?
Here's my question for you. If we wanted to wait until the July meeting to vote on these, what we were gonna, if this got voted through tonight, then the changes are gonna get updated into the student handbook, the addendum, and then the staff handbook, which we're gonna come forward at the July 9th meeting. I guess the only thing I would suggest is there aren't really big substantive changes to those other documents with the exception of this. So on the agenda that night, we could list these policies and get them to you, well in advance for you to review, come up with any questions you want. But if you then approve them, we would have them slated to be included in those other handbooks because we really do need to get those to the printers for the start of school. And we don't meet again until August 4th, so that would be kind of cutting it tight. So we will get you also those other handbooks ahead of time, almost like preloaded with, if you approve these, this is what's going to go in. If you can just be prepared, and like I said, I'll give you plenty of lead time, but just to say approve these and then the other handbooks all in that one evening. That would be helpful to us, at least to be able to kind of get that done. We have to do the translation piece and be able to get them up to the website in early August for families. Did that
Seem
work?
readable, and then if you have feedback, if we get them ahead of time enough,
Yeah.
if you have feedback, something like, you'd mentioned before, then maybe we can get that discussed between you and
Yeah.
and Bill. And-
Yeah, no, that'd be fine.
All right,
Also, if you come up with questions as you're reading through them now, then feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to discuss any of it with you. And, they're not obviously set in stone. This was the best attempt from the steering committee's revisions of everything. So if there's different language or you wanted to change something, this is certainly the time to do it.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry, I have one more question actually, since you were so kind to invite it. Does this policy still essentially leave it to the individual schools or in some cases teachers to determine what happens to students' personal devices when they enter the room?
Well, I guess define which personal devices you're talking about.
So let's say cell phones, right? So I'm going to name cell phones because I know there's a lot of schools that are coming up, or districts that are coming up with district-wide policies of what happens to cell phones when students enter the building.
So cell phones are not something that we dealt with in this. This strictly dealt with our devices and the acceptable use and care of those devices. There is cell phone language in the CHS addendum, and the regular handbook has cell phone advice in it as well.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed there wasn't anything about it here, so I was curious if it lived somewhere else. Okay.
Am I correct? By and large, this really just addresses our equipment
Got it.
that we provide to people, so not like a personal device that they may be bringing in.
But you're saying you're discontinuing the bring your own device, so are we
Right,
going to
which to
crack
me
down on bringing
flagged
your own
my
device?
thinking about
Or
cell
any device? So are we cracking down more on,
This is more about if they were to bring their own tablet or laptop, something.
okay.
Yeah, I wonder if that should be laid out specifically, because when I see bring your own device, I think of students wanting to access materials on their cell phones, for example.
Well, there's nothing stopping them from doing that.
Well, if
Yeah.
we're eliminating bring your own device, that's what I'm wondering, is
Well,
that included or not?
students will still certainly be able to carry cell phones if that's what their parents want them to do, but it's, the building policies are what dictate when and where a student may be able to access the cell phone or something like that.
I know this is just kind of more discussion, but I also read that, Bill, and correct me if I'm wrong, to mean bring my own device to connect to our network,
Correct.
right? So you won't be able to connect a private device to our network.
Your guest network, you would still be able to use though, yeah, it's normal.
The guest network will be available, and we make that available specifically if a student needed to connect a cell phone, because we allow calling over Wi-Fi, so if they had an emergency or something like that, they could still
use the
make a phone call.
So, like,
Did you get locked out of the other one?
But the guest network isn't always that great.
The guest network,
No, I mean, you can't, there's some stuff you just
Oh, I'll
can't
email that to
do.
you.
yeah, the
Because it will
guest
make doing the
guest network was not designed to be a great experience for everyone. It basically can get you to your email, et cetera.
No,
There's
that's what I'm saying, I
streaming, there's no
understand
nothing
why.
on it.
I don't use it most of the time now that I can use the other.
All right, so we will get you cleaned up versions, standalone, of these 4 documents by the weekend, early next week.
Okay.
So you have plenty of time to kind of read through them. And then we'll also queue up the other documents that we had on the calendar to be approved, assuming that this will be incorporated in. And then we'll just bring them all forward at the July meeting.
Everybody
Yeah,
okay
so
with that?
anything that we have to read through, if we can have them a little bit
Yes.
in advance, because if I get them the day of, I don't always have,
Right.
like this, today I
Well, and
skimmed
the-
it, but.
The other bigger documents, like the handbooks and things like that, we use like track changes so that you can see what's being changed, because there's no real substantive changes in those. So often people change names
Yeah.
and things like that, but you can follow that along.
Yeah, like I say, because it's a policy thing, I'd like to make sure we, yeah,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, because what we have right now is pretty, this is this.
Oh, that one, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty generic.
Okay.
So I'm guessing what,
like-
Yeah,
Another
and
thing-
I don't even know that Bill was necessarily, do you know the school committee policy on this? I don't know that you were even necessarily saying to replace that, or is this just happen to have the same name?
Well, when you move to the MASC set of policies, included in there is
Yeah.
what they referred to as a
Exactly.
empowered digital use
Right.
policy. However, that never existed at that time, so we generated that during the one-to-one steering committee,
Right.
so that we had that type of policy on hand. The only tech acceptable use policy we had simply lived in the student handbook, and that was the
so
only.
that should probably get here onto the site.
Right.
Since we are calling it a policy, it is a policy, so it should really be
So this would be enshrined on that policy
correct.
manual.
We have to put it in with MASC and all that, so. And they have other ones on internet, social media, all that other stuff in there too, so. Okay, so we can take a look at that.
We can take a look at that at the same
Okay.
time. Yeah.
All right, everybody good with that? Great, so we'll take up all these things next meeting.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Bill.
the updates.
Well,
Back to.
The school committee and,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
he's
A
always,
lot about that E-rate stuff too for the security, that's.
yeah, that was really helpful to us when we did the network upgrades.
Yeah, it'll
So
be
we're kind of at that point again, so we'll be looking at that. That was helpful. The next 2 documents on the agenda tonight are just our goals review kind of updates. We typically do the mid-year and then at the end of the year. Linda helped us put this together. The first one, item 3, is the school committee goal review update, and the 4th one is progress that I made on goal updates for the year. At this point in time, we use this again to kind of track some of the work, how it ties back to the different strategic plan initiatives, just to keep a running record of what we're actually accomplishing. As we get into, the end of July and early August, when we start to focus on like what initiatives and goals might look like for the 24-25 school year, it's often helpful to just have this as a starting point. I don't know, Dennis, if you had anything specific on.
No, basically, what we've done in the past, and Linda
Yeah.
was kind enough to do this, is we should go through our year, our school committee meetings, and what happened during the meetings, and how does that link back to what our goals were. So this basically goes through all the different meeting dates where we discuss some of the different features, some of the different reports we have. So again, I appreciate that Assistant Superintendent Hurst took the time to do that, and, but, when you do this, and I've done this in the past, it's remarkable just how many things there are. I mean, when you go back and you look at the meetings and you think, we didn't really get much done, but a lot of what we did, it does link back to what we had said we wanted to get done at the beginning of the year, so.
Yeah.
And the same thing with, I'm sure y'all do
Yeah,
as well.
for me too. I mean, I think what was actually helpful for both of us was the fact that we kind of coordinated the report outs to the 5 different working groups over the course of the year. So we had the strategic plan updates. We had some updates on the special ed opportunities review and some of the work of the paraprofessional or paraeducator working group. But then we actually kind of earmarked a presentation at each of the 5 meetings over the course of 5 months to talk specifically about one of the initiative areas. And it was just nice to see how it all kind of tied back to the progress document.
Honestly, when you do this one, a meeting at a time, it doesn't feel like a lot.
And that's what I'm saying.
the end of the year, you're like,
When you sit down at the end of the year and you look through and say, okay, we did that, and we did that, and we did that. And
It's awesome.
so I don't know if anybody has any questions or seeing anything.
If the things is anything like missing,
Yeah.
again, this is just something that once we are done, we kind of post just to keep track of the different work we've been doing.
Haven't we done working groups on these in the past? When's the last time we've had?
Well, we'll kind of do a working group usually to start talking about like next year's
Yeah.
goals and initiatives. But once they're in place, we basically are just reporting out on them.
So this is last year.
This is last year.
year to
So,
current.
yeah, right, these are the goals we came up with in the fall.
Yeah.
This is,
This is our graduation day.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's our report card. We haven't graduated yet.
That looks good. This is really good. This is good work, Linda.
She outdid herself.
I really did, I did.
Twice, I mean, really, with the newsletter picture was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'll have to look.
Oh, it was good, quite good.
My best work.
I noticed it right away.
Hold on, the newsletter? Hold on.
All right, any other
So, yeah, more time.
questions or things that they
No.
think we need to add, or?
Good work, everybody.
So as somebody who wasn't here when these goals were set, what does the process look like? Like, when would we set our new goals?
Probably start in August, right?
So typically in August. So like now we're kind of closing down the current school year. In July, as we'll talk about a little bit later, what I usually do is kind of the whole full year recap, like the year in review at the July meeting. And we kind of close down 23, 24, and that's what John was mentioning, like sometimes we've had kind of like a working session or even just dedicated a portion of the meeting in August to take a look at what we want to have for goals for the next year. I'll also coordinate with like tests and district management group, because another decision we made was really to have the school committee and the superintendent goals be aligned to the strategic plan of the district. So we'll have them come also and talk about our accomplishments for the year, areas we might need to retune or refocus on, and then what initiatives we might want to look at going into year 3 of the strategic plan. We actually had a full day kind of retreat with our whole admin group today to just stop that work and kind of do the year in review. So that was good before everyone breaks for the summer. And then again, coming back in August, we'll kind of set that so that right after the school year gets going, we're really implementing. So I would imagine one of those 2 meetings in
Yeah, I
August.
think it'd be good to have them come in and
Or
help
even a
us.
special meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they'll come back as well.
It'd be great to have them
And
help
again,
us
they'll
with the
they'll
goals.
be able to kind of foreshadow what's happening with the district so that, my goals and then your goals can all be aligned.
Yeah.
I've said it before, I think having that strategic plan is so helpful in putting the focus on the same things for everybody. So, I mean, I've only gone through this one time. Do the school committee goals, though, stay fairly similar? I mean, these are things that have to just keep happening.
Well, again, you talk about it,
Yeah,
two
yeah.
different things. Even like if you look at it, like say the superintendent goals or the district goals are gonna stay pretty similar as far as like kind of the big buckets, if you think about it that way, for the 5 years of the plan. Because when we put the strategic plan together, we identified 5 different areas. So you have kind of the academic curriculum area, you have SEL, you have facilities. So we're gonna be doing the initiatives under those 5 categories may change. And that's what we're gonna talk about. What did we actually get done this year that we're satisfied
Yeah.
is done, is not gonna continue? Or what did we accomplish that we then need to still kind of work on going forward? That might be like a tweak. Or there might be a totally new initiative that gets identified for the next year. But I see the formatting or kind of the layers all kind of falling into those same 5 headers. It keeps us all on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might see, we want to focus more, with the new building project, we'll focus more on,
Yeah, we actually-
outreach to the
we've
community
started
about
talking about
the
that.
building project and that type of thing that we didn't really have to do this year because we hadn't been.
That's true, but then the alignment
It's
part
still
is
gonna align
finishing
with our
up, so that one can
facilities.
go to the wayside where the new building might take a forefront.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm going to ask a really, like, this is very in the weeds and very nerdy. So I'm looking at these and I see the goals, I see the metrics for the goals as part of the goals, the action steps, and then some indicators. I'm assuming that's what the, outputs, whatever, things underneath the action steps, which is super helpful information. What I'm wondering is there anywhere where we're actually evaluating the outcomes of the steps? So for example, I'm looking at supporting academic programs. It says this goal will be measured by successful implementation of the new curriculum in mathematics, okay? Is it stated anywhere whether indeed it was successful and by what metrics it was successful and in what ways our work as a school committee impacted that success?
You're kind of in the weeds. No, which is a good thing. So in your particular document, no, we have not specifically kind of called that out. This is more of kind of like a reporting of what you've just historically done to support the general
Yeah.
goals. When we actually do the strategic plan report out, that's where, like, within the plan, we have the different benchmarks and, do we make a target? Do we not make a target? Does something need to be adjusted? That's when we would kind of talk about if we're on track or not. And let's say something's on track and we want to maintain it, then we don't need to touch it. We might just need to continue that work next year. Let's say something isn't quite doing what we want, we would then have to have a discussion because maybe we need to reallocate some resources.
Right.
We need to, prioritize something different budget-wise, and then you would kind of come into the equation at that point, because I'd have to make a recommendation to you to say, hey, I'd like to spend X on this, or I'd like to bring a consultant in to do this. So that's how you kind of circle back around to it. But this specific document, and even mine, really don't specifically call out the measurables. That is what's going to come out in the strategic plan.
Got it. So this is more of an outline of the
Kind of an outline,
activities.
if you want to think about it like a summary.
Rather than an analysis of any data.
Right. The other complicating factor, though, and I'm sure you know, is that, like, even when we talk in July and August around the strategic plan work for the year, several of the different goals are tied to MCAS.
Right, which we
And so
don't have the data yet.
So we have to wait until the fall for that. So a lot of this is kind of like a work in progress. And when we, we'll look at some iReady data, but we're going to have to come back again in the fall once we get the MCAS data and look at it. So it's just never kind of a quick close type thing because it just rolls. But in those two documents that we're going to look at is where you're going to see more of the measurables.
Got it. Thank you. That's really helpful. It helped me give me a sense of what the
Yeah,
focus
but
is.
it's a good summary just for, I think, like, and again, we have gotten feedback that, like, say, the viewing audience just kind of likes this to get a sense of what's happening without them having to kind of get too deep into the
Yeah.
weeds. But we do get into the weeds when we look at the strategic plan and the data later on.
Great. Thank you.
All right, so since we're going to post these, why don't we have a motion to accept these?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so take them individually, do each one separately.
I make a motion to accept, load faster, the school committee's professional goals as presented.
I second.
All right, any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, okay. And we'll do,
I move to approve the superintendent goals for 2023 through 2024 as presented. I need you guys. I need a second.
Somebody say second.
So these are the same ones we've seen all along, right?
Yeah, we haven't talked about these yet, so I
Yeah,
just,
you
these-
made a
so-
motion about
Yeah.
moving ahead to the next.
I didn't
thing.
know what we were motioning
Yeah.
exactly, because these are last year's goals, right?
so we're
This is
we're
just
approving
report
the,
out of last year.
right, we're
Right, so-
approving or accepting the report on our
Updates.
review of our goals for this past year.
Right.
So for the superintendent one, we're just accepting that we have seen and
We've-
reviewed.
Yeah, accepting the report.
Okay.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of
just
like,
that wasn't clear with the
We
motion.
moved so quickly
that's
into the
why I
next
was
one, I
trying-
was
yeah,
confused.
you're not approving goals or anything like
Yeah,
that for
no.
next year. It's basically like a report of progress.
Approving the report of progress.
If you want to think
That's the
about
word.
that, like a
Yes.
report of
Give me a
progress
little-
that we've made toward the goals.
You do? You didn't,
And again, this is summary level.
you didn't look at it.
We're kind of approving that we've accepted that we've received it.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, but again,
We're
it's just
accepting it
acknowledging
as a
it.
report of
It's a
We're
progress.
acknowledging that we've seen it, that we've read it.
We are gonna post this, we wanna make sure everybody's on board with
Yeah.
it.
Oh, don't worry, we're getting to the part where you get to grade them.
I know.
So we have a motion
So I will
to,
second that motion.
okay,
Thank you for
Okay.
seconding.
alright, so we're voting on, accepting the review of the superintendent's goals. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0.
Okay, thank you. 5. So yeah, so the next is just an outline of, just to be consistent with what we've done previously. It's my annual review each year. So I'm the one employee of the district that you review individually, and then there's a cumulative report that the school committee files as far as my evaluation is concerned. I kept a similar timeline as we've done in the past, just to be consistent. And again, this is something that we've actually talked about from year to year as well, because we're always just aligned to the school year, but so much of this work doesn't align because you're waiting for assessments and things like that. So we have, kind of every year we talk about, well, should we do a different cycle? It's certainly something we could talk about when we get into the fall. But for the time being, just to be consistent, what I plan to do at the July 9th meeting is give you that year in review. So that's kind of your overarching document that you use to help with your assessment of me. Everyone gets the evaluation rubric that we've been using. I attached it for you. And each of the 5 members on their own completes their section, provides a narrative if they'd like to, and an assessment of the individual pieces, and then an overall rating for the year. And I had just indicated if we meet on July 9th and you get the report, if you then have about 2 weeks' time to get that back to Dennis, you would just send it to Dennis with a copy to me. Dennis would then go through and take all of the 5 members' ratings, compile them into one document, and then Dennis would take the feedback from each of the 5 members and create a cumulative, kind of summative narrative for the evaluation. We would then email that back out to the groups, so everyone saw it at the meeting before the week before the meeting, and then come back at the first meeting in August to actually accept the evaluation for the year. So that timeline would be consistent with what we've done for the last couple of years. And I always say too, like after you get the year in review from me in July, if you wanted to meet individually, if you have any questions, please do so. I'm happy to give you whatever information I can to help you in your review.
Questions?
You'll send the spreadsheet and all that out.
Yeah, after we meet in July, and you just fill in the spreadsheet and you send it back.
And I think we've said with Susan last year and Diana, whatever you're comfortable with, because you've only been on for a month, you can go really in depth, you can just go very general, you don't have to do anything, right? Just because you're new to the process.
It's
so.
tough, again, just because like every community's town election is obviously different as well, so it's hard for a new member to come on in April. And then to do an annual report, which just ended 2 years. So honestly, whatever you're comfortable with. And then, because I think actually, did you abstain last year?
I did comments, but I didn't do scores.
Okay.
I felt like
Yeah.
I hadn't been part of it long enough to do
right, that's what I
scores,
did,
but
yeah.
I did have comments.
Which-
And then Donna worked them into the whole bigger document.
Great, okay. That's
It's definitely a
something to
lot
at
less
least think about
intimidating the
then.
second time around.
Right, exactly, right, because you've been through the whole year, right? You get to see the whole process. So.
Right. And again, after we get through this and everything, we can also talk about if there's a different timeline or something. That's fine with me, Joe.
Right.
We can figure that out. But I think for this year, just to be consistent with what we've been doing, I think that would make the most sense.
Any other questions? Okay, great.
That works?
Yeah, there's no item 6, you said? right?
No, item 6 was, I just put a placeholder because I had to get the agenda posted last Friday, and I didn't know if anything else was going to come in. So I put a placeholder in case we had any more one-time expenditures, but nothing came in between now and the meeting. So there's no action on item number 6. There's just one action on item number 7, which is a recommended budget transfer as we close out the year. This is something that we've done, actually the last, I believe, 3 years, is transfer the turf field. So this is the last year that we're actually paying for the turf fields at McCarthy and the high school. Yeah, the bond's going to be paid off. There's a bond principal payment and an interest payment. So what we've done is actually transferred, it's an expense transfer, moving the expense from the revolving fund, which was charged to the local budget, which basically then just increases the amount of funds that are available in the revolving fund for the turf revenue. That'll help us longer term when we actually have to build a new not a new stadium, but put a new turf in, which actually isn't too far down the road for a couple of these schools, if you think about it. They've been in for over 10 years, and the life expectancy is, depending on usage and things like that, 10 to 15 years. So we are going to have that discussion. But where we've had available funding in the local budget, we've done that offset, and that's allowed the revolving fund to increase a little bit of capital. The second one is a transfer also. So where we had some additional funding available in the local budget this year, we always budget for the employee separation costs. So these are individuals who are retiring, say, June 30th. They're entitled to a buyback or a buyout payment. And so normally we budget that for the following fiscal year because they're not leaving until June 30th. But where we have available funds this year, and we also know who those individuals are because the last day of school happened and they're retiring, we prepay the funding out of this year, which basically then just frees up the $97,000 from next year. So those two transfers are what we're recommending tonight. Again, just to actually, what we think is best utilize the funding that's available in fiscal '24 to free up some revolving funding in athletics for the turf fields, and also to free up some funding in the local budget next year under the employee separation cost line. So happy to answer any questions or take a look at that motion
Any
plan.
questions on either thing, the turf field or the?
I'm happy here, it's, the payment's coming up,
Yeah, last one.
really
Yeah.
great.
Just in time to buy new ones, right?
Now, does money
Buy
come out
something.
of that revolving fund for like yearly maintenance and, I mean?
Yeah, so
they
there's,
have to-
there's a couple of different things. So if we have a group that might rent the field, and we have like an attendant that's there, like we'll take money in from the group, but then we may have to pay out like a fee for someone to have watched the activity or say clean up a bathroom, something like that. The other thing is we do have a contract with the company that comes out to do the maintenance on the turf fields. I think they come out like 3 times in the fall, 3 or 4, and then 3 or 4 times in the spring. They have a special machine, they run over it, they add some rubber and things like that to make sure it's in good shape. They test it for us annually. Oftentimes, there might be like little rips in the seam, so they'll do the seam repairs. So we pay for that out of the fund. But there's really been no, the principal and interest payment hasn't been hitting the fund. The fund could pay it, but it hasn't been hitting it because we've been trying to actually build up that reserve.
And does that group, when they come in, give us an idea, or hey, we probably have 3 years left in this, 5 years left in this?
Yeah, so we're going to be seeing what the reports are because they came out this spring to kind of give us a recommendation. Anecdotally, I believe they're indicating that the high school field actually has some good life still left in it. And a lot of that is because the field is closed off. You know, it's locked and it's basically only used for athletics after hours. The McCarthy turf takes more of a beating because it's open to the public. People are on it much more than they are the high school field. So that one just typically gets a little bit more wear and tear. So that one likely will have to be replaced before the high school field. There is a significantly different cost in replacing just the turf because we've already done the what do you call it, the base, but there's also like all the different filtration
Yeah,
and
layers.
layering system. So it's basically, they call it a carpet, basically just taking up the old carpet and putting a new carpet down. So that will be significantly less than what it costs to do the, it's still a lot of money, but it's significantly less than what it costs to do, say, like a brand-new field because of all the grading and the, not irrigation, but the drainage system that has to go in. But I am thinking within the next couple of years, we're gonna have to tackle McCarthy, and we might just be able to wait a little bit longer for the high school. But that one will be following as well.
All right, I'll take a motion.
I recommend the school committee vote at the regular school committee meeting on June 18th, 2024 to approve these FY 2024 local operating budget transfers totaling $176,396,000 from 16 favorable DESI categories to the 2 DESI coded categories noted above for the Chelmsford Public Schools.
I'll second the motion.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, Diana?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
4-0.
Thank you very much. Last item for me this evening is just the personnel report for the month of May. You can see on this, we're still busy hiring for the fall. We're in, actually overall, very good shape. I will have a report for you at the July meeting with any of the outstanding positions that we're still trying to fill. But we have a bunch of new hires coming on board. And anytime you see the effective date of 8/26, that means an individual who's joining our district next year. They're already signed on, but they're coming on board. So we have some new hires, we have a few resignations, and we had one assignment change of an individual just moving from one school to another within the district. But as I said, hiring overall is going well, and I'll have that report for you at the next meeting.
Will that report include what I requested around the data on what kind of disaggregated by like race and ethnicity and other factors?
That may have to wait until we get a little bit deeper into the summer or fall, until we're kind of finally done. I was looking more at like open positions and like what we're still trying to hire for. I can find out for you based on what data they may already have on the people who've already come in and signed. It would be incomplete until we actually get all the way through the hiring season, but I'll see what they have for you.
Yeah, I just saw that that's related to some of the goals, right, like in terms of our staffing and things like that. So I wondered if there was any movement in terms of even slightly more diverse applicants and hires.
All right,
I'll see what I can do.
any other questions on personnel report? Nope, great, all right, thank you. All right, any liaison reports? We're dwindling down, so I don't know if there's much left.
I can speak to a few. I did go to the last PTO meeting for McCarthy and Parker for the school year. And they also reported that they feel like they're in decent spots in terms of hiring. And they feel like people are more confidently able to say yes or no than they had been previously, so that's good. Unified Games Day, which we heard already about, was very successful but very hot. Parker in particular is still working to engage more people into board leadership roles, and really hoping that some rising fifth grade families can step forward and assume some of those roles. They're going to do some thinking over the summer if there's any way to kind of reconfigure, even retitle some of the roles so that they're a little less intimidating. But if anybody is interested, I think they're eager to hear and, ensure that there's ways to engage whoever is interested. There was a lot of excitement about the select chorus orchestra and festival band all getting to perform at the Woo Sox game recently. And lots of positive feedback about, from the Woo Sox about our performers, which was really great. Also, just a couple of comments that were pretty positive. For example, they were talking about field day, saying that the narrower age band for each school has really enabled them to tailor activities to the kids' developmental levels in a way that hadn't always been easy to do when there was a four-year age span at that level. And let's see, the other thing at Parker was that they specifically named, although they have also felt pretty good about hiring, they're really trying to fill a health teacher position and wanted that shouted from the rooftops in case there's some qualified folks.
Any other liaison reports?
Yep. I went to Harrington PTO, and I was really happy for them that their PTO board has doubled in size for next year compared, and I'm really glad because there were some sparse years, but they now have twice as many people because a lot of them are hosting a role like co-president. So that's great. They've got a much bigger board, so it's not the same 3 or 4 people trying to do everything. So I'm really happy for them. Another thing that came out at that meeting, more came from the principal's report, but I wanted to share it with school committee. We're hearing all the time about, we keep getting reports on iReady and how we're doing. And they're using those iReady scores over at Harrington in a very positive way. One of the things that they noticed by looking at it, that while some of the types of reading scores were really good, they were lagging a little bit in some comprehension. And I think it was 2 of the teachers really worked on putting together some modules and setting up comprehension centers to give to the other teachers. And they're using Fountas and Pinnell mini lessons, but they're now having more teacher-led centers about comprehension, and that was a direct result of looking at iReady results and using them to find out where there was a gap and finding a way to fill the gap. So I thought that was really great to hear that you're not just having data for the sake of data, they're really using it in a positive way.
Instruction, that's great.
Yeah.
Just quickly, went to the Byam. They said had a good summer. I actually got to say thank you to Byam. This is actually a really special year for us. This is the first time next year there won't be a Moses in the Byam school system. So my wife and I graduated out of there. So it was just a good opportunity to really say thank you to them, say thank you to the principal, and just everybody there. So it was a good year. Said have a good summer, and they were like, you have a great summer too. And that was it. They didn't have a lot. So.
Last Wednesday, there was a municipal open house at the library, so we attended that. And it was actually, there were a lot of people from a lot of different committees, a lot of different boards. Probably 24 or so people went through and were asking questions. People interested in the building project, which is nice. One middle school student wanted to know if we had to keep doing iReady still, and I said, yes, we do. But no, it was kind of fun. So it was good. It was good to see all the people that are involved with town in one spot, so that was nice to see. All right, anything else? Any new items we have one more meeting left in this?
I know, it's crazy.
Actually, no, this is the last one.
Technically, that's the
This is
next
the last
fiscal
one. Oh,
year.
yeah, so this is our last
The,
meeting.
the new
We'll
year
start the new
starts, yeah, July.
Oh, when's our next meeting?
July
July
9th.
9th.
All right, so we have the parade.
Oh,
What's
so
the
yes,
parade?
on the 4th.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we can't forget that.
So what, yeah, what about,
What do you got?
Dress comfortable, sneakers,
Yeah.
short sleeves.
Yeah, it's
No.
gonna-
probably around that day, it's still a little.
Does she need a shirt?
Yeah, we'll have to get shirts if we can.
We
get
just walk, is there like a?
Oh,
We get a bus, we have candy, we walk, you get sprayed with hoses, there's all kinds of things that happen.
Not so many hoses anymore, but.
I know, the kids grew up that did those.
Well, I assume we'll figure out via email all the logistics.
I'll send you an email.
It's fun.
The town is putting together, obviously, the 4th of July. It's pretty typical. What we will do is meet at McCarthy Middle School in the parking lot, like under the trees when you're walking in on the left. We'll see what the lineup is for that day, but we basically leave McCarthy. I have shirts and stuff like that for everyone, so we'll get that going. Linda provides a lot of candy, so we
I'm
have
gonna go
candy
over
and things
candy
like this.
protocol.
And she's kind of like the candy police.
Well,
So we actually, we walk all the way
little
through the
crazy.
center, all the way down to like Max and Leo's, where that is, where it ends. And then we have to come back. So I'll talk to you ahead of time. We just have to plan for kind of starting at McCarthy, but having someone be able to be at the other place to be able to
Get
get
us
us
back.
back here.
Remember the year we drove the golf carts back and I thought I was gonna die? Like a quarter of a mile on the golf cart, coming back here, all the way down from the center, traffic opened back up. And it was like, I have photos of it. I have photos of
Oh,
it.
and you were trying to drive it the
No, we
other
drove the
way.
golf carts on the street.
driving a golf cart in the street is like
North
driving a
Road.
lawnmower on the street. The cars are flying by you.
Oh, it's wild.
That's terrifying.
But if you can go, it is a fun day.
Yeah, I think we'll be around, still firming up plans because I'm on vacation that week.
Yeah. But then I'll talk to you ahead of time about getting the meeting scheduled, because that following Tuesday will be our regular meeting for July. So that's our one.
And that's
The
when
only
we'll
one
be
for July.
talking about this technology stuff, so.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
that's why I'll get you everything ahead of time so you can read it.
Great.
And even those other handbooks that we're gonna ask you to approve that night, we'll give them to you in advance.
Great.
So you can read those too.
All right.
Good.
Take a motion to adjourn.
I make motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Four.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.